I gathered all my things in my backpack and got on the first bus. I didn't know where I was going, I just wanted to get away from it all. 3 months had passed since then. I don't know what happened to that village. Maybe there was no one there anymore. They are all extinct. Although how extinct, this creature with hooves tried. I rented an apartment in town, a small one-room apartment. First I drank for a month, then I was off for a month. I'm writing this now, and I realize that this moron wanted me to see all her actions, all that she does, that I would leave the house, that I would leave Annie alone. The first time Annie saw him, I managed to chase him away with my presence, but the last time, I didn't have time. It's all right, I've got nothing to lose. The tickets to the country are already bought. My things are packed. I'll get him back. I'll avenge him for Anya. The very ordinary apartment house that my wife and I bought last fall was the most rash thing we ever did. We had been with Anita since the first grade, finished school together, went to university, got married, and realized that the city was not ours. Pulled us closer to the countryside, as we were born and grew up there. So we bought a one-story house in the village where there is not even a store, and the products are bought all 2 times a week in Passimodolevka. At first everything was good, even great. Clean air, quietness, no cars, factories, supermarkets. Just live the high life. I got a job as a mechanic at a nearby collective farm, and Anyuta as a milkmaid. Just like a fucking family. For some reason it was great for us, but for today's youth it would be hell. A few months later, I started noticing some strange things. It all started with the neighbor who lived across the street. Once I went out to the kitchen at night to drink water, turned on the light, scooped water from a bucket. I looked out the window, and there she was, standing and looking at me, moving his lips, as if something says to me. I did not finish the water, turned off the light, and went to bed, thinking that my grandmother was already old and was catching her comings and goings in her old age. In the morning, getting ready for work, I saw an ambulance near my house, and several people from the village, who were discussing something heatedly. Having bought a cigarette, I went over to ask what happened. Grandpa Petya, clutching a cigarette in his wrinkled fingers, told me that my sister had been walking in the night. My grandmother used to visit her in the morning, so she found her with an icon in her arms. A cold shiver ran through my body, so I was the last one to see her alive. Then shouted from the house of the deceased, asked to help my grandmother on a stretcher, for the ambulance crew in the village consisted of a paramedic girl and a squishy old driver. My grandfather and I went into the house and saw the picture of a body lying on the couch and hugging an icon. I did not feel comfortable, but overcame the fear. We lifted her onto a stretcher and carried her into the car. I was also worried that the cross that was hanging on the wall was upside down. At the time I did not pay attention to it, because I was racked with fear. I do not like to touch the dead, as it is ugly or something. After the ambulance left, all the onlookers went home, and I waited for Anita and went to work. As I walked home late at night, lighting the way with a dim lighter flashlight, I saw silhouettes in the window of the house where the old woman had died. Maybe they're preparing the house for a funeral. Then why with the lights off? I thought to myself. At that point I didn't have time to figure out what was going on. There was a delicious dinner waiting for me at home, which pierced my nostrils with the smell as soon as I approached my house. After a hearty meal, I decided to watch TV while Anna cleaned the kitchen and washed the dishes. Out of the corner of my eye I noticed something flickering in the window. Looking out the window I saw nothing but a fence and the house of my dead grandmother, which now for some reason filled me with horror. As I stared at the empty window, I felt as if someone was watching me from the same window. The goosebumps ran through my body again. I closed the window and went to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to a knock on the window. I felt uncomfortable. Annie also woke up and asked me to check. So as not to slap dirt in my lover's face, I had to go outside and see what was going on. Standing on the porch I looked through the window in which the blow was made. Came closer I felt a pungent smell of tar, and under the window, and was that very tar. In our village, it had never even been planned to lay asphalt, so where could it have come from? My musings were interrupted by a sharp screeching Anyuta. I quickly ran into the house. Anna sat on the bed in tears, muttering to herself. I barely calmed her down and began to ask what had happened. She saw someone's face at home peeking out from behind the doorjamb into the room. After she screamed it hid and never showed itself again. I comforted her by telling her that she was just imagining things and that she was winding herself up. That night we never fell asleep. Morning began as usual, coffee tomorrow, getting ready and going out with Anita to work. On the way, I saw an ambulance which was parked near Grandfather Petty's house. I immediately realized everything and did not even ask. From the house were carried out cold and immobilized corpse of the old man. This time an ambulance from the district hospital arrived. Because, as I understood, the car in our backwater town broke down. A stinging man's tear ran down my face. He was a good man, even though I hadn't known him that long. I thought that 2 deaths in 2 days was just a coincidence. People are not young here. Grandfather got nervous. His heart caught. That's all. What more could an old man want? That's all he needed. In the evening, before I went to bed, there was another knock on the window, only louder, and the tar stank even in the house, and Anna started crying again, telling me not to leave her alone. In the next room I heard sharp footsteps, as if someone ran in and out. Fuck, I was really scared. What the hell was going on here? Together with Anya we went into the room, and there was an unbearable smell of tar in the room, which pierced my nostrils to the point of nausea. Both Anya and I knew that we had nowhere to go from the house, and that we had to stay here tonight. We locked the door to the room with a latch, and propped it up with the chest of drawers so that no one could get in. The door was oak that no bulldog could take it. I felt a little safer and dozed off in the arms of Anya. The morning was the same as the last two. When I went out I saw the blinkers, and again, they were carrying out a corpse of some old woman, whom I had seen several times during my stay in the village. At this point I was very wary. It does not happen that 3 days and 3 deaths. It just does not happen. I did not know what to do. Going to work with Anya, we were already thinking about moving, but opportunities and finances did not allow us to change our plans so abruptly. I barely managed to persuade Anya to go home and wait for me there, and not be afraid of anything. She's strong, I guess, I thought before those 2 nights. The night began to repeat the hell of the previous nights. We ran out into the street after the next room started banging on the wall instead of running. We did not know what to do, where to go, but no one had no desire to go back to the house. We spent the night in the kitchen. At 3 in the morning, while Anya was dozing on my shoulder, I saw out the window shaved what looks like a man with hooves. His legs were hairy, like a goat. Sneaking silently he went into the neighbor's house, and then I realized he will be taken to the morgue tomorrow. My fear prevented me from doing anything about the situation. I just sat there and watched something happen in the neighbor's house. As with the lights on, this something jumped on my grandmother with its hard hooves and laughed, trampling her to death, and then danced, turned off the lights and disappeared. I still don't understand why I didn't do anything. I just froze in fear that I might be next. And I will be next. My paranoia was making itself known. No, you have to be a man. Maybe I can do something to help. Leaving Anya alone, I arrived under the neighbor's house. The doors were closed. I thought that if I now tramp here, leave fingerprints, then all 4 deaths could be pinned on me. I felt like a pussy, afraid of everything and unable to do anything. When I got to the summer kitchen, I saw the breathless body of the love of my life. My legs buckled. Anyuta was lying in a twisted position, not breathing. I just stood there. I stood and watched, tears streaming down my face. After 5 minutes of silence with trembling hands I called an ambulance. I waited for her. By morning I was questioned about what happened. I did not tell the truth. No one would have believed me, that some creature on 2 hooves walks and kills everyone in the village. I don't remember what I told them at the time. They took the body away. I gathered all my things in my backpack and got on the first bus. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to get away from it all. 3 months had passed since then. I don't know what happened to that village. Maybe there was no one there anymore. They are all extinct. Although how extinct, this creature with hooves tried. I rented an apartment in town. A small 1-room apartment. First I drank for a month, then